I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. It's been 5 years in the making, but the time has come for St. Joseph Mercy Ann Arbor to open their doors to the newly minted $24 million Cancer Center. The new 66,000 square foot Cancer Center on the campus of St. Joe's Ann Arbor not only boasts the latest in technology, but prides itself on patient care.
Let's welcome them like we know that they're old friends and they feel comfortable here, whether it be the cyberknife treatment, which is very, very precise radiation, or just on the new linear accelerators that we have. And these are the latest treatments where they can aim the beam from different angles, so where they all converge is where they all can cause the cancer to die off in there, but leaving the other tissues spared.
The new facility was designed with the patient in mind, as their input was a deciding factor in the finished product.
We want patients to go back to their families. We want patients to enjoy life and not have to be worrying about their cancer all the time. That's our goal. That's what we want to see.
A large number of students at the University of Michigan work together to make a difference in families' lives through Dance Marathon. DMUM holds fundraisers and events throughout the year to support children in need of pediatric rehabilitation.
Tonight is our Come Together for the Kids Gala. Every year Dance Marathon hosts an annual gala, and we have a silent auction, and we invite members of the community and people's families out to really hear about the cause and see what we do on a day-to-day basis.
They provide support to several families, especially, the more that we're involved, the more support that we get, even just emotionally, in addition to the financial part of it.
It gives our oldest daughter, Paige, an opportunity to act like a normal kid. Everything they fund, from the therapies to the different activities that they fund, the bike program, the tree climbing, the Dreams and Wings, it gives her a chance to do things that normal kids do.
Dancers have the opportunity to go and volunteer at therapies and interact directly with families. They also host events for families throughout the year, so they really get to know students on campus as well as raising funds.
And without the support and love that organizations like this give, a lot of kids would be left by the wayside.
I hope my daughters end up like some of these people that I've met.
We're right in the midst of the season of giving, and to kick off the festivities, the Main Street Area Association works in conjunction with local businesses to create a unique shopping experience. Every year at the beginning of December, downtown businesses bring the deals during Midnight Madness.
I'm down here for the Midnight Madness. This is Ann Arbor, correct?
Yes.
I'm not from around here. I'm from the North Pole. I just wanted to make sure. Ann Arbor, Michigan. And we're greeting all the shoppers as they walk through the storefronts and taking pictures and saying hello to all the good boys and girls here in Ann Arbor.
It's an experience just to have the camaraderie of all the other folks shopping, just to enjoy the busyness of the downtown area. And there's discounts all up and down the street, and there's also some great deals in the restaurants. So it's an opportunity to shop and eat.
This is the Himalayan Bazaar, and we like to think that we want to take you around the world or bring the world around to you. So we actually organize tours. We take people trekking in the Himalayas twice a year, and then we go shopping and we bring home imports.
Our goal is to be more than just a comic book store. We want to be a community where people can come and we can introduce people to comic books. We want anybody to be able to walk in and find a comic they'll love, and we'll help them find one.
Shopping small is really important, that it really is the personal touch of us having a highly curated assortment of items that you just don't find anywhere else. And I just think it's very important to support those that are in turn supporting the community.
Stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly with more news and information. Thousands of people in the U.S. are living with a disease that is actually pretty rare, hemophilia. The disease can have a major effect on your quality of life, but one organization is on a mission to help. I can say personally that this disease has touched my family in a profound way, as we recently lost a good friend, Corby Gilmore, due to complications from hemophilia. Corby was able to open my eyes to the life he lived and how much Camp Bold Eagle and the Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan meant to him during his journey. Joining me is Susan Lerch, Executive Director of the Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan. Welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you.
Can you kind of tell me a little bit about you and how you got involved with the Hemophilia Foundation, because you have decades of experience with
Yes, thank you. And I do want to say that I'm so sorry about Corby. We all are. So I began my work with the Hemophilia Foundation back in the 80s, and it was just kind of a fluke that I ended up with working at HFM, but I wanted to work in not-for-profit. I found an ad. My husband and I wanted to live in Ann Arbor, and so it all just worked out wonderfully, and then I became connected with the community and really part of the family. And unfortunately, shortly after I started my work at HFM, the HIV/AIDS crisis hit that community, and we had to do all kinds of challenging work. It was a really devastating time, and about half the population around the country passed away from HIV and AIDS. And it was truly heartbreaking. I was with the foundation for about 13 years, and I got to know people so well and their families and loved ones, and I felt that I finally needed to take a bit of a break, a step away for a little bit, and worked in other not-for-profit agencies. And then recently, about 4.5 years ago, I got a call that they needed some support and help, and particularly we work not only with the state of Michigan, but we actually handle federal grants for treatment centers in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And because I had that familiarity, I kind of could step back into that. Meanwhile, in all the years that I wasn't actually working at the foundation, I was involved as a volunteer, and my kids, who are now grown-ups, were involved too as volunteers, and my husband. And so at any rate, my daughter, while she was in college, ended up working at Camp Bold Eagle that you mentioned, and she and Corby were actually very good friends as well. She fell in love with a guy who has hemophilia, so now I have hemophilia in my family, and my daughter and son-in-law have 2 children, and hemophilia is a genetic disorder. Most of the time, although sometimes there are spontaneous mutations. So the way that hemophilia is passed, they have a son, Charlie, who's 3, and Charlie does not have hemophilia. They have a daughter, Margot, who's a little under a year, and Margot is an obligate carrier because of the genetics of hemophilia.
What does that mean?
Well, Margot, because of hemophilia being on the X chromosome, she'll actually be a carrier. What that means is that when she grows up, if she makes the decision to have children, she has the possibility of having a child with hemophilia or a child who's a carrier, or a child that doesn't have hemophilia and is not a carrier. So for example, that's what makes these rare genetic disorders so complex. My son-in-law, Tim, actually has an older brother who does not have hemophilia. So it's just kind of the
You have luck of the
luck
draw.
of the draw.
Yeah.
It really is.
And women can't have the disease? They can just
There
be
are actually
carriers?
women do have hemophilia, and one of the things, they have mild hemophilia, or they are carriers who are symptomatic.
Okay.
And so something that actually we just did here in Michigan a few weeks ago, we held the first national conference for women with hemophilia, because often they have been overlooked, as often, women's health isn't always a priority, and women with who are carriers of hemophilia often have bleeding symptoms themselves. And there are, in fact, women who have severe hemophilia. That's even more rare, but women can be very much affected as well as men.
That's interesting, because I wasn't sure about, I actually thought women could have it, and then someone said to me, women can only carry the gene.
Well, yeah, and
or the
typically
chromosome.
that's how it's been considered, and the medical community really looks at it that way. It is predominantly a male disorder, and boys, men are the ones that are impacted by severe hemophilia the majority of the time. But now, as we've learned, there are women that are having bleeding too. It's really internal bleeding, bleeding into muscles and joints. And people take a variety of different medications. There are so many that are coming on the market now, but to treat their bleeding, and they have to learn how to infuse, and there's some new products that have become available that are subcutaneous, so people actually take a shot. So it's one of those things where people that are born with hemophilia today are born into a much better world as far as treatment options and opportunities. HIV/AIDS is no longer an issue in this community. That was really through the 80s and 90s, and heartbreaking. And the good news is, though, that companies realized the need to adjust how they were making their medications, and things are different now. It's recombinant, it doesn't contain human plasma and blood, that kind of thing.
So we're making strides in the medications. Is there any strides towards a cure, or is that ever going to happen?
People talk about a cure. Right now, we don't seem to see a definitive cure, but there are things happening in gene therapy that are kind of remarkable. And I don't know that we'll see a cure
in our lifetime.
Right. Maybe, probably most likely not, but with these gene therapies, who knows? It's pretty incredible what's happening scientifically. And people who have hemophilia, though, they learn how to treat. And for some folks, they aren't going to necessarily want to do gene therapy if they're doing well with the product that they're using for their treatment.
Yeah. But they talk about a lot, like people talk about medication being so much and they can't afford their medications. But you guys actually help people with that aspect of it too.
Well, here in Michigan, we're really fortunate. We have a program here called Children's Special Healthcare Services, and it can either provide direct insurance essentially for families, or it can also be used in collaboration with other insurance to make sure that the product and the treatment is affordable for a family. If you had to pay out of pocket and you had severe hemophilia, it would be millions and millions of dollars over the course of a lifetime. It's a very, very expensive disorder. You're replacing a protein in the blood that's missing, and people have to self-infuse. So they infuse into a vein to do their treatment. And the products, there are all different kinds of products now on the market, but it is something that people learn to do often at the summer camp. That really is one of the places where the kids feel most comfortable. The whole idea is you're around all these other kids who also have to infuse or learn how to treat, and it's become something where people actually don't have to go to the hospital for treatment. They can learn how to do it at home. So that's something that is really incredible that happens at Camp Bold Eagle in particular.
If you want to tell us a little bit more about Camp Bold Eagle, because I feel like I've told you I've known a few people that were campers there, and I just feel like everyone I've ever talked to about it, it just holds such a special place in their heart.
It really does. It's an incredible place. My own kids went to Camp Bold Eagle with me, and they don't have bleeding disorders, but they learned a lot about them when they were there, when they were little. It started in 1969, and here in Michigan, Camp Bold Eagle is the oldest and largest and one camp programs for children with hemophilia, von Willebrand disease, and other bleeding disorders in the world. And we have been, it started through a physician at University of Michigan, and bringing all of these young guys together. And the theory of the camp is really, what can we do? And it has stayed that since the, 69 when the first Camp Bold Eagle happened. And kids as young as 6 start at camp and come together, and they realize all these things that they can do and can be a part of it. We have medical staff from our treatment centers, predominantly Michigan and Ohio, and at one point we had kids from Europe that would come over, and we still on occasion have kids from Germany that do come and join one of our teen camp programs. So now Camp Bold Eagle has grown from the residential camp that we do in West Michigan on Big Blue Lake, and we use a campsite that is just wonderful. And we also have these other programs like Eagle Outpost, where their kids actually go on a camping trip around the state, and that's for teens. We added a teen camp at Bold Eagle so that kids that may not be ready for Outpost still have that residential program that they can go be a part of. And then we have Eagle Quest, which is up on North Manitou Island for adults. And we have another program that we call Eagle Expedition for kids 16 and up, and they can go whitewater rafting. So the whole thing is to really learn how to be independent, how to do your own treatment. And most people have to treat 2 or 3 times a week, some more than that, some less, but you have to learn to do this all different kinds of places. So if you can do it at camp, or you can do it when you're out on a whitewater expedition, you really can do it anywhere, for sure.
What are some of the other things that the Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan do? Because you were telling me before the show that Michigan actually has one of the larger populations of hemophilia.
We do, and I think in large part that may be because we started not only the camp program here, but the same physician, Dr. John Penner, who moved ultimately from U of M up to Michigan State University, he helped create this federal treatment center program that now is across the United States. And that program came about in really providing comprehensive care for individuals with hemophilia. And because we have both the Children's Special Health Care Services, which is an amazing program, and also our treatment centers, we have a lot of people who ended up maybe choosing to live in Michigan in some way because of all of the excellent programming that's available here. But by saying we have a large population, we have about 800 or 900 people. So it's not like it's thousands, but we have a lot of folks that love being here and love being a part of our community. It's a really tight-knit group.
Well, you mentioned your family, and it really seems like that you're a family, that you treat each other like that.
We really do. And, because you know a lot of these individuals, I often say that, at all the people that are involved with the camp program, even if they don't like the other person, they'll do anything for them. So it's like they are family in that regard. So if somebody gets a flat tire and calls somebody else, they'll be there for them. And it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. I think that it's been really, really tough because we lost so many people, and that has had such a challenge to the community for so long. I mean, actually, yesterday was Ryan White's birthday, and Ryan White was probably the most well-known person with hemophilia, and became, an individual who really spoke out about HIV and AIDS, and people would listen to him, and he was so supportive of everyone who was impacted by HIV and AIDS. And we worked a lot. We worked very closely with Michigan's LGBTQ community on trying to get legislation through and treatment and all those kinds of things back in the 80s and 90s. And then I know Ryan's mom very well, Jeannie White, because here in Michigan we were the only chapter, I was here at that time, that really reached out to the family because things were so challenging. And it was just World AIDS Day the other day. So it's something that we often talk about and want to remember and don't want to ever forget how it impacted our community. Yet, we now have all these amazing new opportunities for people, and I'm thrilled about that.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I would like you to mention about ways we can support the Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan, because it is a rare disease that I feel like sometimes maybe it is underfunded, or maybe you need volunteers.
Exactly, and I really appreciate that. I have spent my whole career, 30 some odd years, I can't believe how old I am, probably 35 years at this point. Anyway, working in the not-for-profit world, and I feel like places like HFM, they do need that special support, because it isn't something that's likely to affect your family. But if you get to know a person that is living with a bleeding disorder, you will be incredibly impressed with those individuals. We would love to have people support our camp programs, our financial aid and services that we provide, program services. And so people can go to our website, hfmich.org, hfmich.org, or take a look at our Facebook page and like us there. And we have some events and activities where we're looking for volunteers. And if you have a special skill that works with a summer camp, especially, we're always looking for waterfront people. We would love to hear from you.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/watchctn. Thanks for watching and tune in next time to FYI.